Gary Ward would tell you, we're all programmed by our adult environments, our entire life. And then we're 18, we go off into the world and we're like, oh my gosh, I got to think for myself. It was so ingrained into my brain, into my heart, to my DNA that you must be a good teammate. You must be loyal. You will be rewarded for those habits and those behaviors and those characteristics. And sure enough, so I give the credit to my parents.
Hello, welcome back to Unleashing the Baseball Mindset, where we talk about the mental and physical sides of baseball and what it really takes for athletes to grow in the game. Today, we are joined by Ross Hawley, a former professional player drafted by both the Brewers and the Dodgers, who spent more than 2 decades coaching and developing players in the DFW area. He is also the founder of Baseball Forward and College Recruit Pro, where he helps players and families navigate development and the college recruiting process. Ross, we're very excited to have you on. Anything else you'd like to add to your intro there?
Oh, man, you know what? I'm happy to be talking to you guys today. It's always good to just talk baseball, talk life, philosophy, on and on. So no, man, nothing. You got it. I'm happy to be here today.
Excellent. So every baseball story usually starts with a moment where the game goes from something that's fun or something that feels like a game to something that becomes a part of their identity. So when did the game start to feel like it might become more than just something you played for fun?
Wow, I like that. You know what? I'll take you back to my father. I was raised on the Air Force Academy. I have a twin brother. I have an older sister, a twin brother, and I'll start with my twin brother. And having a built-in catch partner is and having someone to always rely on to play the game, explore the game is something that I don't think you can. So I think to do this question justice, I got to start there with my brother Ryan, having the dude that just always do whatever we were doing. It was always something. It was always something athletic. We were always moving. We are always outside. So it starts there. When it locked in on baseball, we grew up on the Air Force Academy. My father, the Air Force paid for him to get his PhD. So we moved down to Austin and I lived in Western Oaks, 5106 Wagon Hitch Cove. I can't believe I still remember that stuff. But we lived in Austin and man, I remember my first baseball experience where I was like, oh boy, this is different. And it was at Texas and Kurt Dressendorf was on the bump, University of Texas. And I remember going to a game with we were in the second grade Little League, the Oak Hills Optimist Little League, I believe is what it was called in Austin. And went to a University of Texas baseball game at Dishwalk. Saw Kirk Dressendorfer, saw Scott Bryant, Art Butcher, David Tollison, and I watched it. I remember going with my teammates, the Dobrinskis. They were twins too, and we went and we watched. I remember listening to Guns N' Roses on the speakers and everything. But I remember watching the game, and I was like, we stayed for the whole game, and then after, I remember seeing the players talking to girlfriends and families, and I distinctly remember saying, I want to do that. I want to be one of those guys. And it started there. The genesis of my love and my just passion for the game started when I was in second grade watching the University of Texas and saying, that's who I want to be.
So a twin brother, but who's the older?
I am older, wiser. I'm the trailblazer. I screw everything up, and then he learns from all my mistakes. But no, I'm older. My twin brother Ryan, he lives out in Westfield, Indiana. But yeah, man, it's funny because Ryan and I we're twins. We look the same, obviously. And it was like a circus act everywhere you go. What? The twin brothers, and it kept going. It kept going. It kept going. It kept going through Little League and through all the different ages, and we both remained pretty decent baseball players. So naturally, you get attention. We have two, buttheads that look the same who are halfway decent at the game. It draws attention. So, but it was, you guys know the baseball clubhouse, the locker room, and you got to be able to not take yourself too seriously, and you got to be able to take it. You got to be able to give it. Having that twin brother, it was like a practice for what was to come, for things that I didn't even know was coming,
Mm-hmm. Now, did you feel like y'all were more of a team that propelled each other, or did y'all compete against each other, and that maybe is what helped you excel?
Team. And you know what? I never felt like it was competition between he and I. I truly, even to the day, I want him to have any. I want him, the success he has. I feel it. So it was not never competition. It was always uplifting. And then you know what I realized, like just hearing that question, I'm kind of like, it was never really about competition with anyone else either. It was, how good can we get? How good can I get? But in that context of your framework of your question, how good can we get? That was kind of always the mission. Ryan and Ross and Ryan, how good can we get? And it was just kind of it was an obsession, because you guys know it, Dylan. I mean, the passion and you can't describe the fire for baseball, that once it's in there, you can't extinguish the flame.
Yeah,
Am I right?
you're right. I tried to get away and I couldn't. I tried. I told you this, but I left the game in a bad way and went through a period of time, kind of a deep and dark experience for about 7 years. And God planted these boys in my life. And it was almost like as soon as they were born, that passion came back, and I didn't even realize it until they started like picking up bats and baseballs and gloves, and they started doing things because I have stuff around the house, and they would start doing things, and it all just came flooding back in. And then I realized kind of what my journey really is all about versus me. It's more about the future and these kids. And that's why me and Kyle started what we started, was because like, if we don't do something in this baseball world, which I'm sure we'll get into, if we don't do something, man, that this next generation is doomed when it comes to baseball, man. It's gotten to a bad place. And I think there's a lot of guys like us that are trying to make a change. And I think eventually it's going to happen, and hopefully sooner than later. But I do have a question about the Twins thing,
Yeah.
because I've had two sets of twins as players, and
Good luck.
yeah. So I've found that you have a very interesting and very special relationship at a young age, it sounds like, with your brother, because what I've experienced with these guys is more jealousy,
Wow.
competition, like Kyle was talking about. I see a lot of that. Now, I will say I think a lot about it because I actually am experiencing it now. And I wonder if it has anything to do with faith. I wonder if it has anything to do with spirituality when it comes to brothers not caring for each other as much and caring more about themselves and being more self-centered. Or is it just a sign of the times? I wonder both of those.
Dylan, what a like introspective, thoughtful way to try to understand people, because I'm telling you this right now, man. Glory to God. My parents, holy cow. I mean, listen, we all love our kids, but my parents, my dad was an instructor at the Air Force Academy. He's a retired lieutenant colonel. It wasn't any other way but the right way. And it was pounded into my head in a loving way, in a respectful,
Hmm.
raised in a Christian family by the grace of God. Thank God. God bless the USA, and
Yeah.
thank God that I live here and I was born in this country and I got to play baseball and I got to have the family that I have. But it was pounded into our head the right way of what essentially being a good teammate was, and that propelled me. There was no other option to other than support. It was support. It was support. It was support, and I am thankful for that. In my calm, in my best state of mind, probably my clearest mind that I've ever had in my life at this stage of my life. It's not competition. It's love. It's lifting people up. It's being together, it's working, it's serving, it's making sure that you're doing the best you can for people. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And understanding that, but understanding where you can make your impact. And I think that comes from the parents. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's parenting, and then it's just believing. Gary Ward would tell you we're all programmed by our adult environments, our entire life, and then we're 18, we go off into the world, and we're like, oh my gosh, I got to think for myself. It was so ingrained into my brain, into my heart, to my DNA, that you must be a good teammate, you must be loyal, you will be rewarded for those habits and those behaviors and those characteristics. And sure enough, so I give the credit to my parents.
That's awesome.
Going back a little bit though, so you mentioned it was never really about competition for you anyway. It was about being as good as you can be. And that seems very different than what we see these days. And you get a lot of this comparison to other people,
Mm.
in large part from social media or whatever the case might be. Turning a little bit to mental performance coaching and what we teach in sports psychology, that's a big thing that we try to teach is like, hey, you're not competing against them, right? It's you in the game. And then if you focus on that, it really just creates a totally different mental environment. So it seems like that was something maybe y'all picked up on earlier than most, might have been a side of the times, but also sounds like it might have been a lot of your parents.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's the way you're raised. It's, the values. At the end of the day, I wanted to be a good teammate. I wanted to be reliable. I wanted my parents to be proud of me. Like, it sounds cliche, but those are the things that I wanted, and I'm thankful because I don't think a lot of people are taught that. I don't know if it's a sign of the times, but I think as parents, I'm a dad. I have three. As parents, those are the things we focus on. And when you focus on those things off the field and you focus on the DNA of the human and their core values and how they represent themselves in every scenario off the field, it's a natural transition to how you handle on the field issues. Because baseball, guys, it's a game. It's not that big of a deal, but how you handle anything is how you handle everything.
Now,
Yeah.
do you talk to many parents? Because I don't know that that's what a lot of parents are focused on. Because my son's very young; he's 6, but he plays baseball, and we
What's his
did a.
name?
Well, I'm sorry,
What's his name?
his name's Caden.
He's
Caden.
got a he
Beautiful.
got a YouTube he got
You
a
might
very new YouTube. Yeah, you might have seen him on YouTube. He's
Let's
got
go.
a very new YouTube
you might have
channel.
got his
I
YouTube
joined
channel.
last night. I
Him
subscribed last
wrestling.
night.
He loves WWE. Like if he would put half as much effort into baseball as he does WWE or whatever, he has a good time. But so this year, my wife organized a team party, and in the team party, she did team building things, right? So put them together as little teams, and they're going to do work on these puzzles and stuff like that. And we had several parents be like, wow, such a good idea. I never would have thought about that. Or this one was, my son plays for 8U, and they've never done anything like this. So I really don't think, at least from my perspective and experience, that a lot of parents are really focusing on the value of working hard and the value of being a good teammate. If you were to ask them, they would all say, yeah, of course that's important. But it seems like a lot of the parents are getting lost in that game as well and maybe not focusing on those things. But I
Mm.
honestly I don't coach, so I don't see it as much as Dylan might. Dylan, if you have a comment on.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think of it. I think of what Mike Hamilton said a lot of it being a societal issue. He kept kind of keying in on that, and we need a societal shift, obviously. And for me, that comes with faith. It is we've got to have something bigger. We've got to have something bigger. And me personally, I believe that's Jesus Christ. And
Amen.
the issue is here is that you have a societal difference that has turned a lot of people into just this self-centered mode, which I don't think they're doing it on purpose. But if you have that true purpose, you would be able to make that shift pretty quickly. But I think we get so entrapped in my family, my kid. I want what's best for him. I love my kid. And that kind of shifts into self-centeredness. It shifts into these kids not wanting to be team players, right? And I think very deeply on the whole COVID issue. But to me, the world was shifted by an evil source, let's say, to make us that way. So I don't want to get too political
China.
or spiritual here, but I truly believe the devil was at us and it was trying to transform us into more self-centered people. And you've seen it follow through in the last 4 or 5 years of it's everywhere. It's not just in baseball. It's everywhere you go. It's at a grocery store. It's in the workplace. And it's really gotten to a point where everybody is only thinking for themselves. And I think that's showing up in baseball a lot right now, and especially with the kids that we see that aren't good teammates that have all the talent in the world. And if they could truly understand that if you're a better teammate, that's going to be better for you too,
True.
and that's what it's hard to just tell a kid that without the parents backing that up is You go and help a teammate out after you struck out, that's going to make you better. That's going to bring your confidence up. That's going to change your mind from me to servant mode. And then everything works its way out from there.
I think of the Seinfeld episode when George is doing everything the opposite of what he has. A couple points I want to make. Simple. If you teach your children, your kids, the guys that we coach, that it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to have these feelings. It's not about focusing on the negative. It's about when it comes in, how do you deal with it? It's training them. Hey, do the opposite. If you feel horrible, push yourself to be in a positive. If you're feeling bad about yourself, force yourself to serve others. Force yourself to be a good teammate. It's trying to teach them that. But from a broad perspective, I say it all the time, but I genuinely, just it's my heart, by the grace of God, men, stand up. Men, like men of the world, and whether you're a Christian or not, Christianity represents, like, Jesus is love. That love, and true men don't have egos. They don't play games. They're good communicators. They stand up and they care and they have passion for the young men that they're around. So, like, I always hear this: we've got to change, and the world has changed in society. I'm not saying that it hasn't. The way I choose to view it is everything can change around me, but what doesn't change inside of me, and it's not going to affect the way my standards and how I raise my kids. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at all, but I'm saying if more men took the pride in owning their own little environment and caring about how their kids, how they were respectful in it, moments that nobody sees. That's the major issue. Is I wrote down, we were talking, men stand up, men, leaders stand up. That doesn't mean you have to be rah guys, but you lead by example. You show, you understand that you accept the standard. And I want to give some love to one of my buddies, Ryan Robertson, who I coached our little 12U team with. But everybody, the standard that he makes these boys play to is, everybody always wonders, like, how do you get the guys to do this? It's not that they're doing these amazing things on the baseball field, some good things, but it's the way they handle themselves. And you know why? How do you get them to do it? You know how you get them to do it? Tell them to do it. Tell them that's how it works. This is how we do it. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else. But men stand up, and I say we challenge, instead of saying we have a problem with society. I say we challenge more men to have the highest standards possible and go be the light, go be the standard to as many up and coming youngsters, for your peers, but be the standard, for crying out loud.
Yep.
Do you do motivational speaking? Because I'm ready for a revolution right now.
You know what?
I got the chills. I got the chills in the first half of
I'm about to run out the door and make a couple of signs.
Hey, but that's like, I believe that's what God puts in me. It's not me. It's not me. These are not my words. They're His. And that's a powerful thing. And that's what I want my boys to know is, that's how you want to communicate. Communicate with what's inside of you. Now, but no to the motivational speaking. Maybe I'll add that to the
going back a little bit. I want to go back to the doing the opposite and how powerful that really is, both from think subjectively of like how you feel if you start to do the better thing or the opposite thing, but also objectively. There's been some great research on hormone levels, and not necessarily doing the opposite in all cases, but when we're sad and whenever we have sort of a depressed type of a feeling and body posture, well, our hormone levels change within 2 minutes. If we do the opposite, which is standing with what they called a power pose. And this research was done by Amy Cuddy out of Harvard Business School, and that she was interested in differences between men and women in job interviews. And she noticed that really the way the women carried themselves could have had a big role in whether or not they were hired. But anyway, standing in a power posture, which they describe as standing like Superman or Superwoman, within 2 minutes, you can boost testosterone by 20%, and you can decrease cortisol, the stress hormone, by about 15%. So it's true, right? It's a fact. Just do the opposite. If you feel a little bit down or depressed, just stand positively for a little bit. Stand with a big open posture. Don't look down at a phone, like look out at God's world, and you start to have an immediate, more or less, impact.
Let me piggyback. That's beautiful. That is really cool to hear, because it kind of makes you feel what you're thinking is along the right lines. Like, hey, maybe we do have this kind of figured out. Practice. We always talk about adversity and failure with the youngsters, and go back to them coaching the young guys. And we talk about how do you rebound? I think if you can pinpoint that to young men, I say student athletes, young baseball players, athletes growing up, if you can pinpoint the feeling of uncomfortability and be comfortable with being uncomfortable, but get them to say, in this moment, in this very moment, every single time it happens, every single time I'm like, dang it. I missed that one. Happens so much in still to the day. But when the moment hits at that very moment, if we can teach them practice the failure, practice the bounce back. This is my practice moment. This is my moment to challenge myself and see how quickly I can get over it. And if you can somehow convey that and communicate that to the youngsters, because they're moments to grow, and their growth, and failing is growth. And I think when you can comprehend that ugly emotions, feelings, anger, sadness, depression, when you can take those moments, boom, right when they hit you, because they hit us all. But when you can take them and say, opportunity, 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 then you get better at it. And it gets easier to deal with the older you get.
The essence of mindfulness is being able to resist distraction. So a mindfulness practice is not necessarily paying attention to something, but it's being able to resist being distracted. And if you work on that, little mindfulness drills, it helps in those moments that you're talking about. It's a skill that's generalizable. So that means that you could recognize the emotion. And it is hard to teach to kids because it's this idea too of separating yourself from that. You can get kind of weird, but a way to explain this is like a third person perspective. Instead of saying, man, I feel sad or tired, I would say to myself, maybe not out loud because people would look at me weird. You would say, Kyle feels sad. And so you're separating yourself from that emotion.
Good.
It makes it more objective,
I
but
like
that's kind
that.
of boiled into this ideal of mindfulness. But the other thing I want to say on that is going back to God and prayer. One of the things I've tried to teach my son, and one of the things whenever I compete, and I've told Dylan this 100 times, but something I go back to a lot is whatever I'm doing, say, God, give me what I need today to become a better athlete, a better Christian, a better husband, a better father, and not what I want. And if I start with that, all of those moments that don't seem to go my way, I can be sad about it or upset. That's okay, right? Emotions happen immediately. And the worst thing we should do, especially for kids, is tell them to not feel that way. But to your point, quickly recognize it and then say, God, thank you for this opportunity to learn this.
Yeah.
And then use it as a gratitude to help shape the attitude and just move forward past it. But recognizing those different ups and downs that happen.
That is the word that comes to my mind. That's bulletproof. Like, think about the moment it hits and the time between you, that gap, it hits and I'm back to normal. That gap, the smaller that gap gets, the more elite you are.
Absolutely.
And understanding, boy, the smaller that gap gets, the more elite I'm going to be. Well, what do you want to be? I want to be elite. Well, if you want to be elite, this is what elite people do. It's hard to understand that. It's hard to be even cognizant of it at an early age. It gives me hope to know that, like, in the context of practicing baseball, we practice for results. And when you can stop practicing for end results and practice for the understanding of why it works the way it works and what the purpose of what we're trying to do is, and an ultimate knowledge of it, if we're not so result oriented and what's my batting average, what's my ERA, but I'm in the moment, I'm controlling what I am in control of. That's powerful stuff too.
And Dylan can probably speak to this a little bit more, but a lot of this stuff is hard for kids to learn, and we get that. But one of the things Dylan does with his teams is like we created these workbooks and they go through it. So even at 10 and 12 years old, they're starting to hear
Good
this
job,
stuff
Dylan.
repetitively. And Dylan has seen a big difference just in the past 8 or 9 months. And
Awesome.
we hope like we're just going to keep seeing those advantages just stack up.
Dylan, tip the cap to you, man. Hey, I pay attention. You go out to the fields. I see, who's this big old dude with the beard and everything? He's got good energy. But tip your cap, because to the earlier comment of men stand up, you know why? Because it matters to you, man. And we always hear about coaches. We always hear about, man, you get onto Facebook and you can see a coach a day getting just burned to the ground by, I'll say it, by parents that don't know squat. Oh, you don't
Yep.
like what I said? Oh, well, deal with it. I don't mean any problems with it, but I'm like, they don't know squat and they burn the guy down, and you see it all the time. But I'll say this, the guys that allow themselves to get burned down is because they don't have principles and they don't have standards most of the time. And I'm like, that's where it's the challenge of the men to say, no, we're going to do this to a standard. And we know it might not be for everybody, but it's going to be the way we do it. And so, Dylan, tip of the cap to you, because you are standing up. You do care about how these kids turn out. And to the parents out there listening to this, that's what you look for in a coach. You're not looking for your son to become Mike Trout. That will naturally happen if he has a God-given ability and he has a drive in his heart. It's not going to be Dylan that's going to make him Mike Trout. but you want to put your kids around men that are structured, organized, principled, that have standards, that are consistent. The message is always consistent. And if you have that as a parent, man, don't let that go, and applaud him. And Dylan, I mean, I hope it's okay to say thank you. Everybody's so quick to give middle fingers to everybody and say, man, they're terrible. It's okay to say, hey, you're doing a really good job. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
So Dylan, well done on holding the team to a standard.
I wanted to go back a little bit just to be sure everybody's clear here that God planted me in your life, Dylan, before your kids.
Where's your loyalty, Dylan?
Yeah. No,
could be
it's true.
future.
And I'll say this is Kyle's my research guy, you know. He's the one that does all the research. I'm the one that puts it all in action. You know, we're cut from the same cloth for sure. When it comes to how we were raised, how we grew up, you know, made a lot of mistakes and have cleaned all that up by the grace of God. Thank God for that. But, you know, I'll tell you, it's tough, you know. I have a couple parents that say thanks here and there, but it's not a lot. But again, you know, I'm not doing this for them, right? I'm doing this because it's my calling and because of the boys, right? It's funny, exactly what you just said, Ross. Ryan Terrio said the same thing last week in a different way, and it really makes a lot of sense. He said, I'm not here trying to build major league players. I'm here trying to build major league human beings.
Amen.
And that was like, that's profound. It's a simple statement, but it's profound because that's really what we should be trying to do. Right. And I truly believe that what me and Kyle have put into play is building major league human beings. And no matter, you know, wins, losses, does this kid play short? Does this kid pitch?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. What matters is, are we giving them the best opportunity to become the best person that they can be? And that's really what it's all about for me. You know, that's what it's all about for Kyle. So the more coaches we could get, like you're talking about, Ross, the more coaches we can get out here standing up and doing it for the right reason. You're right. And to all the hate that happens, that goes back to something Chris Pike, one of our co-hosts that we have on sometimes. He said, always know this, Dylan, you're right, they're wrong. And I've carried that with me. And what he meant by that was all these things that people are questioning, they have to go away. In your mind, they have to go away. You're right and they're wrong. You played baseball. You study baseball. You have Kyle there to do research on all the mental performance and everything else that Kyle does. We are here in the moment. We know what's going on. We're right, they're wrong. And if I can keep that mentality, I think I will be very successful with these boys.
I like that approach, and it's a humble approach, honestly, if I can keep that, because you know there's a daily commitment to your standard principle that you live to. And I'll give you some shout out to you, Kyle, for the same, just wanting better for the greater good. That's powerful when like-minded individuals get together. That's the way I feel about Ryan Robertson, man. You know, my coach, two men together, not perfect, but trying to perfectly raise these kids. I want to say this because it's powerful, and I'm putting it out into the world because I want my boys to see it. I want my daughter to see it. And like, is it cool watching my son the other day throw really well and big moment? Yeah, that's awesome. But like, truly, none of it matters if on Monday I'm observing him in a situation and I see my neighbors walk by and I see him not make eye contact when the adult is talking to him. I see him not saying yes sir, no ma'am. I see him not treating people with respect. None of that stuff matters. None of it matters because I'm failed as a dad about teaching them what should matter. What is the priority list? And I really believe this. It's not that hard. Be simple in your own household. Principles, standards to make your kids live to. And if they can be good teammates, like if it's even more simple than that. If they can be respectful and they can be polite and they can be aware and watch them and observe and observe and observe and coach them in those situations. Hey, I didn't see you say yes, sir. Hey, that's not how we handle. We don't say, yeah, It's yes, yes, sir. It's when you shake a man's hand, you shake his hand, you look at my eyes, and it's always being on him. And you know what? You're not going to be popular. You're not going to be popular for a while, but with your kids. But I think like my dad was a freaking just, I didn't want to mess with him. Okay. But my wife asked me the other day, she said, did you ever feel like you wanted to rebel against him? No. He was my leader. No,
Yeah.
he was my leader. He was my leader. I believed what he was telling me was the truth because of the way he taught me. And that's the stuff that I'm saying. And so as parents, you can focus on those. Are they getting good grades? Are they staying out of trouble at school? Are they properly addressing adults? Are they not gossiping? Are they not bullying people? Are they not getting into the weeds every single day? Every single day. If you can do that, how do you think they're going to perform on the field?
It's simple, but it's not. But if you focus on those things, guess what? They're a better baseball player.
Amen.
And that's what's so like it seems so simple to me, but you got a good kid, you're teaching him the right things, he's a better baseball player.
That's right.
You know?
Why does it make him a better baseball player?
Man, hey,
It all correlates. You think about if they're respectful, if they're being, let's call them teammates outside of the field, right? They're respecting others. They're being teammates on the playground. They are, like he said, staying out of the weeds. They're keeping their head straight. Guess what they're going to do in baseball? The same thing that you need to build that mental performance, to make sure that you're always engaged, to make sure you're practicing on your own. That all comes from those same lessons. Like it all correlates over.
you know what? Trust. Like when they grow, and I'll use the idea of high school to college and being recruited and everything and playing at the highest levels. Your coach has to trust you. He has to trust you. What does that mean? I have to know that he's reliable. I know what I'm going to get when I put him in the biggest moment. I'm not saying we're going to win. I'm not saying I know I have to be able to trust him. And that's how it correlates is if you're controlling the character or the minor details in a day-to-day, and you can be consistent with it as a young man or young woman, as you be consistent as a parent guiding your kid, you're creating a trustworthy student athlete at the higher levels. And can I trust that he's going to go to class? Can I trust that he's going to stay eligible? Can I trust that he's not going to be out at the bars because all the girls want him because he's the Friday night starter? Can I trust him that he's going to handle himself in the post-game interview with respect and humility? That's what it's about. And you're creating. I always tell our guys like this, and this is where it's been some real growth, is I don't have time for the goo goo gaga crap anymore. Ross, you're harsh. No, I'm not. I don't cuss at the kids, but I don't have time for the goo goo gaga. You know what I want to do? I want to dig in on the baseball and like, hey, the arm fake backdoor third base getting the guy. I don't want to say, hey, Billy, pay attention. Look at me, look
Yeah.
at me. I don't have time for that. We don't have, and I think when Ryan Robertson and I, our kids understand that. But my kids at home, when we're sitting at the dinner table, and seriously, Ryder, Kaiser, Sierra, ask them, guys, that's not how you eat. That's not how you sit. You're like, everyone's gonna be, oh, you're nitpicking. No, we set a standard and we hold them to it. But what you're doing is they're living to a standard. It's built into their brain, and you're creating a trustworthy human being that is reliable and and that is consistent and that has consistent habits that gets good grades, that has consistent habits, that's reliable in the classroom. Those are the guys that are the most successful, and that's what you're trying to
Mm,
create.
mm.
How can we flip that? How can we use sports to build that type of a responsible human? And I ask because my wife is a clinical psychologist that works primarily with kids. And unfortunately, there's a lot of kids that are not set up for success.
Mm.
And let's say sports is their only outlet. So what could a coach do to sort of turn the tables and maybe be the trustworthy one that child needs because they're just not getting it at home?
Dylan, I'd be curious to hear this, but the simple answer for me is this: we said simplicity earlier, consistency. You have to understand that when you are in a position of leadership, parenting, when you're in a position of leadership, coaching, when you're in a position of leadership, teaching, when you're in one of those positions, those are one of the most coveted positions on earth. It's pressure. Well, can you show up every single day? Can you be consistent? Can you show up every day, whether you want to or you don't? And if you can be consistent, that's the word that comes to my mind, Kyle, is be consistent and show up and show them that you care and show them that you care, that they grow and they mature. And if you do that, you've done everything you can do.
I've got a great one for that because I know 3 for sure that have been in those situations. 3 people, 3 kids that we helped get on the team because they couldn't pay for it, number 1. Number 2, because of, you know, other situations I won't get into, but I think I've talked to you about one. But some rough situations, right? Really rough situations where the kid comes in and doesn't know how to respect, doesn't know how to be a teammate, doesn't know how to give his 100% because he's never had to, right?
Mm,
Or he's never learned to, let's say. And for me, it's standards. It's just modeling the standards, right? When we warm up, as soon as they get to the field, they put their bag in a specific place. They put their gear underneath it so somebody can pick them up when they're needed to.
mm,
So, and then we do this in practice too. So all your gear's set up, everything's ready. They go put their glove on the line and they all line them up the same way.
love it.
Okay. When we start warming up, we all warm up the same way. We do it all as a team. Everything we do as a team. We teach them, like we talked about, Kyle, our practice is somewhat 70% failure, like we've talked about in your research. Somewhat 70% failure. And we teach them why that is. And we teach them all the mental approaches that we talk about all the time of how to get past that, how to move forward. But we let them know that you're gonna fail. And guess what? They're failing a lot at home too. And it may not be all their fault, but they're having a lot of trouble at home or at school or whatever. And we're setting the standards for them to bring into their life outside of baseball. And all my boys hear from me probably at least once a day, if not 2, checking in on them. How are they doing? What drills are you doing? I have a group text, and then I text the boys if they're having issues or anything like that. I'll text them separately. And I just started doing that this season because
Love
they're
it.
12 now and they all have phones. At 10U, 9U, like my son didn't have a phone. But it's checking in, keeping those standards always. Like I asked them about school. I had a parent that came to me the other day, like, hey, he got his phone taken away. He did this, this, and this. And I said, okay, I'm gonna have a talk with him. So I take responsibility not only as a baseball coach, but as a mentor too to these kids. And I let them know that, it's unacceptable to be disrespectful to your parents, to your teachers, to
Yes.
get in fights. This is unacceptable. So if I hear these things, which I will be checking in with your parents, I'm going to make sure and I'm going to do something about it. I go back to I had a taekwondo teacher and I hated it. I absolutely hated it because I'm not a kid that made good grades. It was all about sports for me. And um I had a taekwondo teacher. We were just doing taekwondo just because, and he would have us bring in quarterly. He would have us bring in our report card and have us sit down with our dad. And he actually kicked me out of the taekwondo school because I had two report cards that weren't. I think it was like you had to be above a 2.5 or something like that. He kicked me out of the school,
Dang,
and my dad was like, "Good, this is good," and I learned a lot from that. So
man. I want to say a quick thing of just eh, my wife May is Japanese, and I it is unbelievable. We got married in 2022. She's a simple woman, most beautiful woman ever, but she's so simple. And I've learned, and I think the Japanese culture is one that man, it's just unbelievable how
yes,
disciplined and quality of a human being they like,
yes,
how much it matters from a culture perspective. But I've had a front row seat, guys. It's made me having my wife just be her natural self, and I get to observe it every day up at the same time, every day doing cooking breakfast for the kids, every day going to bed at the same time, every day. It's like Groundhog Day. And what you realize is like the simplest life and the most consistent life is a really stinking happy life. And wanted to mention that because in the thread of where we're going, it's how do we help the kids, how do we help them understand is fine, like be consistent, hit repeat, be consistent, hit repeat, be consistent, hit repeat. Bobby Witt, same day every single day. He has the most disgustingly routine day that he lives every day, every day, every day. Well, it looks like it's working, and I have a front row seat to my wife, and I'm like, I've watched her just ascend. I watch her how she handles the negatives. I watch her how she handles the positives. It's all the same. And I'm like, man, that's what we got to teach our kids is that I was at a Bible study probably 10 years ago. The late Steve Farrar said something that stuck with me. You avoid the highs and lows of life by staying in the word consistently daily in the word. The parallels that is to life, to coaching and teaching
yeah.
is show up. Just show up. That's the hardest part. Just show up and be consistent with it and watch how things change. And I think that's how we can positively affect. Just get the right people showing up, being consistent and getting put it in the work.
Whenever you talk about how you were raised and saying yes sir, no sir, and this and that, and it is a lot of respect, but it's also a disciplined life. A lot of times whenever we hear the word discipline, we think like, man, that's not for me. But you hear numerous people say this: the disciplined life is the way to freedom. The more you put the guardrails on certain things, the more it opens up opportunity where you really need it. And I think that's a lot of what's missing today, and I see it in my son, I see it in a lot of kids, I see it in a lot of parents, and it's little things like, what's the role that disciplined eating plays on your life?
Mm,
Well, if we can discipline ourselves with the one thing we can control, which is what we put in our mouths, we're
mm.
gonna be much more disciplined in what we see, what we hear, and how we respond to it. We live in a world where we're just information and stuff is just blasted at us, and a lot of times we can't block it out.
Wow.
But you create this discipline in this one area, and it does really relate to so many other areas of life. And I'm not saying like I'm some super strict discipline eater, but I'm also not a glutton. And I think that's kind of what we see a lot is people kind of indulge a little too much, and it makes them want
Mm,
to look at things that they maybe shouldn't and might feel guilty for looking at. But I go back to that too, like as a coach with a kid that's struggling at home, discipline. Discipline, consistency, trust. Ross, those are two things that have come up numerous times on the different guests that we've had. Not only being a coach that can trust the player, but making sure that that player can trust you as a coach to be consistent.
amen.
So those, I think all those are really powerful. Thank you for that.
A
You bet.
discipline with eating, that's powerful, you know?
Yeah.
That's very
I wrote
powerful.
an article. I wrote an article on it, Dylan. Did
Yeah,
you
you
do
didn't
you read
send
my
it to
article?
me. No, you didn't send it to me.
It's on my website.
Hey, and it really is like hearing you say that the mental hurdle that you get over when you can trust yourself. Like that's so clutch. When you can trust yourself, is there really any better feeling? Like, hey, I made the right decision. Again, I'll go back to Steve Farrar. He said something, leadership. Leadership is making the next right decision. Leaders make the next right decision. And you live in those micro moments every day. Make the next right decision. And Kyle, I listened to you say about the eating, and I'm like, dang, that's so true. And but
Yeah.
you'll be proud of yourself for being disciplined. You're going to be ashamed of yourself for being undisciplined.
Yeah. So I went through this thing. Like I'll sometimes hear my pastor speak, and I just have all these thoughts. And I've worked in health and fitness for many years, and you think about the type of food that we like to eat. Well, we like sugar, salt, and fat, and that's very much an evolutionary thing. I very much believe in biological evolution and the evolution of consciousness, and we can talk about that if y'all want to. But then you start to think, well, hey, we're humans, and food's everywhere, and so was this desire a mistake? Well, God doesn't make mistakes. So what I think
Mm,
now is that hunger, that desire for food is now turned into how we have to discipline ourselves because of the world that we live in. And if you can have that control, right? Like I said, that's the one thing that we can control is what we put in our mouths. If we can be disciplined with that, other parts of our life will fall into place much better.
powerful, man.
That's so
But
true. So true. Think about this. When I went to Louisiana, right, Ross, I do the carnivore diet. I've been on it for 10 years and I love it. It works so well for me, keeps
Love
me
it.
energized. Like I say, I'm not a zealot. I don't try to prescribe it for other people. However, I have for some people. Like Kyle, we've both been in the fitness industry for too long. But when I would usually go to Louisiana, I just junk out because that's where I'm from, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Best food in the world, right? And at least for me, it is. And I junk out, feel like crap most of the time.
Man.
Head's not clear. I don't make, I don't have the deep conversations with my sister or my brother-in-law or whoever else
Wow.
I visit with that I would had I stay on my carnivore. Well, this past
Man.
time that I went for 5 days. I said, you know what? I'm not doing this again. So I strictly stayed on my meat and cheese, whatever I can whatever I could find, because, there's obviously every restaurant we go to, there's po' boys and gumbo and jambalaya and all that. Luckily, I can eat boiled crawfish because that is within
Let's
my
go.
diet. So I had a lot of boiled crawfish. But what ended up happening there is truly profound. And Kyle knows the story. I ended up getting connected with one of my former MLB. So one of my former good friends that's in the MLB, his brother I played in college baseball with. I had a visit with them both. May lead to some really big things for me and Kyle. Had some deep, deep conversations with my brother-in-law and my sister. I mean, everything went perfect. And I truly believe, and I told Kyle when I got back, like I felt so much better the whole time I was there. I made some business connections that I had no idea that God was going to put in my lap.
Wow.
And I didn't even think about that. That's like part of the discipline that I kept, and being able to have those conversations and have that dialect with those people. I didn't think about it from an eating standpoint,
That's
but
beautiful.
it makes total sense.
maybe it's the meat.
And
It's
cheese.
the meat,
And
bro. It's
cheese.
the meat.
But hey,
And some cheese.
that's a powerful testimony. And what I love is that what you hope by putting that out into the world, Dylan, is like you learn. Like that may seem inconsequential, unconsequential, whatever the word is, to most people. But think about the person that will impact. And somebody needed to hear that. And it's just like, man, seems like a simple decision. Like when you were sitting there telling me, I'm like, well, you should absolutely be on the carnivore diet when you go to Baton Rouge so you can feel good. It seems obvious. It's like, hey, we make the obvious decision and we get the obvious answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the things that you're doing now, Ross. So tell us a little bit about college recruit prep. And I am curious, and maybe this is just how you'll describe it anyway, but I'm wondering, like some of the things we're talking about here with leadership in the Lord and like respect and discipline, if that led to what you're doing in college recruit prep, if that's playing a role in it at all, or maybe it's something a little different.
College recruit prep. I took that company and I fused it in with baseball forward. So College Recruit Prep is no longer, which is really cool because of the opportunity that's come forward. Baseball Forward is you got to look at it as an umbrella that covers many verticals within the game of baseball. Recruiting being one of them, and that's a sweet spot for me because it's a business that I ran for a number of years. So specifically, what one of the main vertical that I'm working within in Baseball Forward is we have a recruiting vertical. It's called recruiting. Our website is recruiting.baseballforward.com. But what I've created is essentially advising, mentoring, helping families, kids with the college recruiting process, and that's just been kind of an organic um, transition to me. My goal, I didn't really realize this, but my goal was when I started with the recruiting stuff. 2012 was asked by a friend of mine to come run a business, help run a business, and then it's all kind of evolved from there. But Baseball Forward, it wasn't ever a goal, but then about 2 years ago, I got in. I started getting some in some good partnership talks. Jim Schwanke, Coach Gary Ward, and the goal was to say, I don't want to just stay in a lane of recruiting. I love it. I love helping families with this, and I love the network and connecting kids with coaches, and it's awesome. But there's more. I want the audience to be more, and that's where Baseball Forward came in. Is teaching the game, the memberships, and it's just a bunch of content, great content about growing the game. Baseball Forward, elevating the next generation. But within that Baseball Forward, there's that recruiting vertical, and we absolutely help. And you can check that stuff out on the website. But I think the message that I would want to convey in all my years of doing this is, if you would have told me in 2012, when I first started to kind of get into it, that it would become what it has become, I would have been like, there's no way. And it's because of relationships and the network that has just, it's crazy to me to think about the number of coaches that like I personally connect with, and I feel humbled by it, but it is a blast watching young men connect with coaches, find that right fit, and then go on and go do their thing and help plan that. And it's not just college, it's professional stuff, and it's on and going. But the whole idea of Baseball Forward just kind of evolved from there. It's elevating the next generation and doing whatever we can to make sure kids are getting right, accurate information in a good, positive form, always uplifting, nothing negative. We stay out of that stuff intentionally. There's a lot of guys out there. I'm not into the beefing with people and telling people they're wrong. I have no interest in any of that. It's all about being positive. So that long-winded answer to say Baseball Forward, elevating the next generation. Check out the website. There's recruiting stuff. There's baseball knowledge stuff. There'll be products that are added. We're in year 2 right now. It's growing like crazy. The podcast has been awesome. That's really kind of given a lot of visibility to Baseball Forward in general, but Baseball Forward podcast, man. We just recorded episode 101 last week. Just some amazing guests, that I've been able to talk to. Names that come to mind: Tony Vitello, Ben Jenkins at Warstick is now Mitch Thompson at Baylor, former big leaguers, coaches. But just it's humbling because I love the game, man. I love the game, and I'm so thankful that I get to just be in the game, doing something, hopefully contributing in some positive way, shape, or form.
That's cool. I want to go back to the recruiting just real quickly. One question: what was the gap that you identified there? Was it the distribution of honest information?
Yeah, and it was the lack of understanding. The college recruiting process is probably one of the most chaotic, emotional events that a family will ever go through. Dylan can attest to that. I can attest to that. It is a chaotic, emotional event. There's a lot of companies out there that, hey, this is America. It's capitalism, baby. I love it. But they prey on the fluff and they prey on the emotions and the negative feelings that you have to do this for this to happen, as opposed to this is how this works. If you would have told me like in 2026 that I'd be running a business where literally I'm just sending text messages and DMs daily and saying, hey, you need to check this kid out, and that's how it happens, I'd be like, are you kidding me? Because I always thought, hey, it has to be all these fancy software. Having software is great, and having a great website and apps, that's great. That's great. But I can promise you this: in the world of recruiting, it is all about relationships and is about your network. And my advice to anybody going through the process to talk about the gap is if there are student athletes, if there are young men out there that are going through the process and they're confused, join the club, and families, join the club, but seek out people who have credible networks. And that's pretty easy to see. Just go look them up. But credible networks, and understand that the relationships are what the relationships, and getting to know, if I'm a kid wanting to go to ABC University, I need to know that coaching staff. I need to know what they're looking to accomplish. They need to know what I'm looking to accomplish. I always tell the kids it's like the job search process. If Kyle, if I said to you tomorrow, if I said, hey man, you need to go get a job tomorrow, I guarantee you what you do is you put your
It tells me that a lot.
but you would put your resume together. One, you would identify where you're employable. Two, and then three, you would do whatever it takes to get to the interview process. It's as simple as that. So we try to make recruiting simple and easy, and then understand that. Ask, go have a conversation, get to know people, relationships. I was talking with a young man yesterday. Kid's a stud out in Prosper, and love his dad, love this kid, love him as a player. I'm very projectable, but we're sitting there having a conversation about the coaches that have personally texted him and everything. And he said, Ross, what would you do with all this stuff? And I said, I would say, I would smile, and I would be thankful that these guys are I would save their number, and I would not worry about, I would keep playing baseball and enjoying it. And I would be the network that you are building right now because of baseball can serve you however you want it to serve you later. Focus on the relationships, focus on the network. But to your question on the gap is, it's a lack of knowledge. It's a chaotic mess that you feel like you can't control. And the reality of it is you can control it. Get around people that have an idea of how it works, and then have a game plan. I mean, Dylan just said he's on a carnivore. He has a plan for how he stays healthy. Like, that's intentional. Just like recruiting, man. Like, I can tell you this. I guarantee you, Dylan could say, "Hey, that guy's probably going to be a Division I guy. Hey, might be a pro guy. Hey, the evaluating physical talent is the easiest thing in baseball. That's the easiest thing in baseball. It's obvious. The part where it gets confusing is when you don't know your options, and you don't know how you're going to get connected with those options, and you don't know how to go about the process. It's mapping out an action plan. We call it a recruit game plan. You can go see all that stuff on the site, but it's a game plan, and it's what needs to happen. I always say reverse engineer it. What are your goals? Where are you gonna what is a realistic level for you? Where are the schools? What schools? Let's build a list of schools, and then we'll put a timeline together starting now until when do we expect you to make a commitment? On that timeline, what are the recruiting activities that you need to plot along your little timeline? And then just go act it out. And you'd be shocked at how many kids, when you give them that power, and the families, and you can talk to them, you say, hey man, this is exactly how this is going to go. It changes everything for them.
There's so much to the networking and stuff because of social media and the way people are connected these days. Kids don't know how to do that. So I think that alone is just helping them do that. Is probably going to play a huge part, and just getting kids to understand that, maintaining those relationships.
That was my biggest regret in my playing days, was I cared too much about the wrong things. And the wrong things were I didn't know it at the time, but it was the perception, what people perceived of me. I cared about their perceptions when at the end of my career, whereas opposed to when I was climbing, I didn't care. I was just focused on the work. But one of my biggest regrets is leaving the game in year 2 of pro ball, not getting released, me quitting, and walking away because I thought I was mentally gooed out and I just didn't want to do it anymore. I wasn't prepared. I didn't have a plan. I didn't I literally, I had a conversation with a kid yesterday and said, I go, what do you want to do? He said, I want to play pro ball. I said, no, that's too gray. That was me. That's too gray. Well, what does pro ball mean? I said, make major league debut when you're 25. You're going to play at this level, then you're going to play at this stop, and then you're going to go to this stop. And then when you're 25, you're going to be in the big leagues. How long are you going to be in the big leagues? What position are you going to be playing in the big leagues? What does that look like? You have to define those details if you want to have the success. But back to my regret was I focused on the wrong things. I didn't have a plan, but I missed out on so many. The idea of how many relationships I missed out on because I wasn't putting that as the most important thing. So it is all about the people you're around. It's the networking, and it's just about giving and serving the people that you're around, because man, this game is so special. And I'm 46. I can't believe I'm still involved in this stuff. It's like, am I gonna die when I'm still being involved in baseball? Like, what? How am I still throwing BP? How am I still hitting fungos? How am I, like, what is going on? But I don't really care because I enjoy it. I enjoy the heck
Yep.
out of it, and I enjoy watching these kids. It ignites me watching them get it, and then having the plan, and then working the plan, and then, oh, the results come, and then, oh, if they don't come, guess what? You built pretty good skill set that's transferable to any other area that you want to be successful in.
I want to talk a little bit about player development. The something that comes up quite a bit, going back to like youth players, and a lot of players today, they juggle like travel team showcases, year round competition, all the tournaments, all of these types of things. So, how do you think athletes can balance development and competition while still maintaining a love for the game?
I think it 100%. It has to be on the player. We've got to stop. I don't want to say stop. We have to focus on this. Becoming really good at baseball is like an exploration. It's a journey. And that takes a lot of different destinations and a lot of different scenarios to go through. And it's not for me to tell my sons what their journey. You need to hit off the tee. Man, if you don't want to hit off the tee, don't hit off the tee. Uh, uh, go hit go out in the front and take your wiffle ball bat and go hit fungos and see how high you can hit fly. I don't care. But here's what the focus that I want. How can we focus on player development is ownership of enjoyment. And if the kid doesn't enjoy it, it doesn't matter if they're good or not, or if they have a decent skill set, because if they don't enjoy it, they're not going to do it very long. And I always want the development to be, the player development in a team setting. It's a team structure, just like you'd run a business. But for player development, if a kid is saying, how do I get good? Well, do you want to get good? And if the answer is truly yes, okay, well, we can put a plan together. But I would tell you very simply, it's an exploration and a journey. It is experimenting. It is, hey, what does that swing feel like? Hey, what does that arm angle feel like? Hey, what does that grip do? It's a constant exploration. And I'll say, like, my boys go in spurts, when we were teaching them, 6 months ago, how to spin a breaking ball, and they're high on that for a while. And then I talk about the low arm angles, the infield arm angles that you need to learn how to master. It's like there's all these different areas that they can focus on, that if they want to be doing, they can occupy their time with that exploration and that experimentation with so many facets of the game: running, hitting, throwing, all of it. But I think it's player development has to do with a player's curiosity of how good they can become, and what they can become, just by going and feeling it, and making it make it's as simple as that.
Mindful practice, like
Mm,
what he's talking about is actually feeling it, right? Mindful,
mm.
being alone in your thoughts. That's a missing component of baseball today, is being alone in your thoughts, being mindful of what you're doing, especially as little kids, right? And developing those neural pathways. Like, not many kids are going to go out and feel their swing, feel their pitch, feel their movements.
That's
And
right.
that's what I'm trying so hard to get these kids to realize. It's okay to go outside by yourself and work on your deficiencies, right? And feel it. Feel when when it feels right. What does that feel like? Be mindful of what you're doing. Me and Kyle say it all the time is, 100 mindful repetitions is so much better than 500 mindless repetitions.
Boy, that's true.
Being there, being mindful, being in a space by yourself where you can feel it.
Love that.
And when you talk about the exploration and the journey too, I think of have you ever heard of the 10,000 hour rule? We've
Oh
talked
yeah.
about it on the show,
Yep.
and that it's a myth. The psychologist that did that research, that there was nothing special about 10,000 hours. But what does seem to be significant is about 10 years. So about 10 years of making a decision of, hey, this is what I want to do. And then, like you're saying, exploring. Yeah, it's going to be a journey, but you give yourself 10 years of really hard work and you're going to be a master of that trade, whatever it might be. Now staying focused, that's a whole different story throughout that time.
That's
Enjoying
right.
it plays a big part of that. But what seems to be transformative about 10 years is there is a level of maturity that happens in that time towards not only learning skills, but it's learning how to handle different sort of situations, learning how to handle emotions and a lot of that stuff that goes into it. So about a 10-year exploration seems to be significant. And the other thing you mentioned there about creativity, there is this idea of like, how does the pupil become better than the master?
Mm,
And all teachers want their students to go further than they did.
that's
But
right.
but how do you do that? Like, how does the person do that? And it's through creativity. It's through exploring. If you give kids or young athletes, any athlete, if you give them a safe space to explore and
Yes.
be creative and make mistakes, that just might be the person that changes the future of the game. They
Oof.
find a different way to throw it. They find a different way to hit. They find a different way to do something. With the game of baseball, it's hard to imagine how anybody could find anything new. But you give the kid the space to do it safely, mentally safe, and that might be the kid that does it. So I think there's
Judgment
so much
free.
of that.
Judgment free, and something that stands out to me. Coach Schwanke and I were talking the other day, and I said, "Hey, man, talk to me about handling failure or practicing failure, not handling, practicing failure."
Practice. Yep.
And he said, uh, I go, "How as a coach do I help the kids practice failure?" He said, "You ignore it. You ignore it."
Perfect.
And that ignoring is judgment free. You don't pay attention. Hey, next. Like, we know that they're going to kick the baseball. Ignore it. And how quickly can we get to the next rep? Because that rep is gone. And I think that there's something to just ignoring it. I love what you said, but the idea of just being judgment free in a safe environment, like for the coaches out there, that it's a pet peeve of mine watching coaches coach kids act like they never made mistakes. Go on. It's if you're having to yell at a kid, truly, I'm saying this to myself, so hold me to the standard. If you're yelling at a kid for making an error or not being in the right position or because of a result in a game, you're yelling after, that shows your lack of ability to coach ahead and help them, put them in a position of success, because this journey is a group journey. I'm on it with the player. The player's on it with me. We're on it together. We want him to succeed. We want him to have we want him to be successful. And it's not about dividing and splitting player versus coach. Oh, you should have had it.
Yeah.
I heard a dad just kind of funny the other day. We're out hitting, I'm hitting Fungo's ground ball early work at a practice, and I hear one dad who I love tells his kid to get down. Our parents don't ever say a word to our kids. They leave them alone. And he said right at practice, get down. Hey, you got to get down. And you know what I wanted to say, and I didn't, but I was like, hey, you get out there and do it. If you're so good
That's
at it,
what I want to say every
hey,
time.
you get out
Every
there and you
time.
show them how to do it then. But I like that
Yes.
safe, judgment free, but ignore.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say here before we get to our closing segment, but you mentioned curiosity, and that reminded me of grit. And there's an actual definition by Angela Duckworth, who was a psychologist that has done research on grit. And the definition is passion and perseverance for long term goals. But one of the things she talked about recently was, whenever we think grit, we oftentimes think of just working hard and pushing through something and like being a warrior. And yeah, that can be part of it. But she has said like some of the most gritty people she's ever worked with are like spelling bee competitors. And you don't think of like, well, where's the grit in that? But one of the things she said that one of the biggest indicators of a gritty person is somebody that has a genuine curiosity to see what's next. Like, how good can they get? What can they do different? And I think that's a big part of it is like, what's the kid that stays engaged and wants to do something, wants to push the needle some way or the next. So that kind of stood out to me as well.
Love it.
The few things I like to do at the end here, some rapid fire questions.
Let's do it.
So say the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
I'm always ready, baby.
What do you think when you look at Dylan's face?
Love and energy.
That's always my primer. That's always I get a base primer.
Love and energy. I want to give him a big hug and a big
There
hug
you
and
go,
say,
Kyle. You haven't heard that
love
one
and
yet, have
energy,
you?
baby. Love and energy.
He's a good hugger. He's a good hugger.
Kyle, I want to give you a hug too, but hey, love and energy for Dylan.
What is your favorite baseball memory?
Favorite baseball memory. Playing would be probably throwing a perfect game in college. Individually, in the memories, just being with my boys, just being with the guys, and just being on the field, man. There's so many of them you can't even recount. But selfishly playing, we had a doubleheader, 7 inning game. I flipped in 16 strikeouts and 21 outs. I absolutely shoved. So that was my probably best memory.
What's one trait every great player has?
Man, they're just psychos. They're psychos. They're psychotic for the game of baseball. They need it. They need it. It's their life. It's their blood. They need it. They're psychos for the game.
What's one drill every young player should practice?
Playing catch. And catch isn't just, think about this. We call it playing catch, but the emphasis is always what? On the throw. Playing catch is throw and catch. Two people you're practicing catching, moving. One thing that we always talk about with our guys, and we'll do this drill in our practice when we start doing our team defenses, we'll have the off guys that it's not their rep. We'll have them sit in the middle of the field and we'll come close our eyes. And I'll say, you can hear good catch, because good catch involves two things: a good throw, and it involves a solid catch, right? So we'll have them put their heads down, and then at the end of the round, the horn will say thumb up or thumb down. Did it sound like good? And if it sounds good, it was a good throw and it was a good catch. Both guys did their job. So what's one skill? Playing catch.
That's
Great.
awesome.
Great.
A big thing about improving in a sport is being able to get feedback and get feedback from a coach. That's very important. But being able to get self feedback, being able to recognize, like, maybe this could have been differently, that could have been differently. Sound plays a big part of that. Dylan's talked about how he knows where a ball is going to go by the sound it makes on the bat. But I think
Absolutely.
teaching that in the catch is a great thing to learn, to where the importance of the feedback that you hear. What does it sound like? Not necessarily what does it look like, but do you hear it? How does it sound coming off the bat? How does it sound hitting the glove? That's feedback. And the more feedback that you can use to improve a skill, again, you start to close that gap between error feedback and correction. All right, last one here. One piece of advice for a 12-year-old ball player.
One piece of advice for a 12-year-old baseball player would be this: it all matters. All of it. How you do anything is how you do everything. And listen, we talked about this at the beginning of the podcast. And if you don't hold yourself to the highest standards in every facet of your life, don't expect yourself to be elite as a baseball player. Don't. It's not fair. That's not fair for you. I hear this often in the line of business that I'm in. I want to get to the highest level. I want to be the best. If you truly want to be the best, and you want to be the best version of yourself, doesn't matter where you end up, but if you want to be the best version of yourself, you have to have the highest standards in everything you do. You have to eat right. You have to sleep right. You have to treat people right. You have to be respectful. You have to take school. School sucks. I hated it, but you have to. It's part of the growth and the maturity that you're teaching yourself, because if you want to be the best baseball player that walks on the planet, all that other stuff has to matter. What you're eating, how you're sleeping, how you're treating people, the workouts, it's all woven together. I'll finish with this. I had a guy the other day, I talked to him, man, he projects very well. I could see him being a Division I type guy and potentially a pro arm at some point, physically. And he said to me, Ross, where does this go? And I said, I think it needs to go a little bit backwards first. He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you got a 2.9 GPA in high school. I know you think that that's not a big deal. I get it. And this is stuff that I wish someone would have told me when I was growing up, right? So there's no judgment, but that's not the standard that it's going to take for you to get where you say you want to go. Like, that stuff matters too. If you think that being if you're a senior and you mistreat sophomores on the varsity team, you're not going to the top. You're not. You're just not. The standard will never change. We can all be better at something, and we can get better at some areas. But for the young guys, how you do anything is how you do everything. A 12-year-old, how you do anything is how you do everything. Identify the areas that you don't care about and do the George Costanza and start caring. Because if you want to be the best, you have to do what's required of you to be the best. And that's everything. And it's a boop, boop. It's a daily commitment.
That circles back to the beginning of this so well too, because all of that can really start, or it should start, as a kid. Like whenever you're first learning how to play, whenever you're first learning how to sit at the dinner table, you start to build those habits then. And then by the time they get through middle school, high school, college, that should already be a habit. So that level of performance and everything that they do should already be just how they do things. And that starts at a very young age. Not
Man,
saying that older people can't shift gears a little bit if they need to, but it's better if that's really instilled at a young age.
I agree. I agree totally. And I think it's what I would have wanted to know. Ross Hawley, where were you deficient? Where were your blind spots? My blind spots were, how's he going to handle the storm? How's he going to handle the attention? Were you mentally prepared? And I look back at that and I say, hey, just do your best as a young man playing this game. Do your best to not beat yourself down, but identify where the growth needs to take place. Identify the areas that you need to be better in and make a commitment to not getting it perfect, but getting it better.
That's great. Well, Ross, this has been a great conversation about development, recruiting on the mental side of baseball. Dylan, is there anything you want to add? All right, Ross. Well, thanks for taking the time to join us today and sharing your experience. Anything any wisdom you'd like to leave us with?
You know what? It's a beautiful thing. I love this conversation. You guys are doing awesome things, and it's a pleasure to have three grown men pulling from the same end of the rope. Keep doing what you're doing. It's making a difference. This is community. It's family. Whatever I can do to help you guys, man, it's an honor, and I'm thankful to have had this conversation today.